Hello again, everyone. So this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about understanding the grooming process that leads to isolation. Most relationships that become violent or controlling do not start that way. They often begin with a heavy dose of romance. Abusers often shower their future victims with attention, flattery, and care. The abuser may initially seem ideal, devoted, loving, supportive, and wanting to spend every minute with their new partner. This flood of romance can feel overpoweringly positive, leaving the recipient in an altered state where reality may be suspended. This is a type of grooming, a predatory tactic that is meant to build a deep emotional connection. Abusers know exactly what they are doing. Just like an ocean wave, the romantic outpouring may make the recipient a bit unsteady and unable to see the new relationship clearly, and can lead a victim to overlook or dismiss the onset of abusive behaviors. Abusers often come on very strong. The abuser may suggest moving in together just a couple weeks into the new relationship. They make spending every moment together seem romantic, or because the love you have is just so much and so strong. They ask about your experiences, secrets, dreams, etc., so that they can learn all about you. After a little bit, they begin asking to be put on your bank account, listed as your emergency contact, share social media. They want to know your passwords and PIN numbers. At first, this can make someone feel loved, wanted, and needed. It can make you feel like the most important person in the world. Once this feeling kicks in, the abuser can start gaining more control by asking you to miss work events to spend private time together. They may make special holiday or birthday plans just for the two of you, knowing you have family traditions that you attend every year. Gift giving can be amazing, but abusers tend to ruin everything that isn't from them. Your sister gives you a cute teddy bear necklace that matches hers, and you simply adore it. The abuser may accidentally break the chain while lovingly helping you remove it before bed, then tell you how cheap it must have been. Or they may buy you a watch and tell you how much more useful their gift is. Now you have been groomed into isolation, and isolation has made you vulnerable to even more coercive control. Intimidation is next. Romantic gestures can abruptly turn into intimidation. Abusers typically blame their partners for growing tensions. Victims will work hard to appease the abuser, trying to keep themselves safe and get back to the early glow. An example: after a romantic dinner one day, Steve began to kiss and take off the clothes of his boyfriend Drake. Drake kissed him back, but said he did not want to have sex that night. Steve grabbed him hard by both arms, stared into his face, and said, "Don't." For the first time, Drake felt afraid of Steve, who was bigger and stronger than he was. In that moment, Drake understood that saying no to sex was not really an option. To keep the peace, Drake never again directly refused to do what Steve asked of him sexually. Drake felt threatened throughout the relationship, but tried to avoid thinking about these feelings because the romance was sweeter than any he had ever known. From initially making their partners feel loved unconditionally and like they can do no wrong, abusers then make their partners work hard to please them, blaming and acting hostile when they do not get their way. Grooming the community. Abusers often groom friends, family, and others to overlook the signs of abuse and cut ties with the victims. Abusers strategically act charming and helpful to others so that these individuals cannot imagine the cruel act occurring behind closed doors. Mowing neighbors' lawns, playing piano at church, coaching children's sports teams, being a firefighter or a police officer, attending teachers' meetings, helping elderly people in public places, etc., is examples of how abusers hide what they do at home. When a survivor speaks up, no one wants to believe them because they see the outer portrayal of the nice person. Sometimes they groom the community by ruining the victim's reputation. This can be overt and quite subtle. Some survivors have said that they lost their friends soon after getting with the abuser because of stories made up or twisting the situations to make them sound incompetent, lazy, or crazy. Some survivors have stated how the abuser would call their friends and family to request they call if they witness some peculiar act, or saying that the victim has become unhinged. Some survivors have said that the abuser even turned the religious community against them by saying that the victim was acting immodestly or neglecting their children. When the victim tries to leave the abuse, the religious community shunned them, and some even helped fight on the abuser's side for child custody. Awareness of the grooming process helps us understand the plight of someone in a relationship with an abuser. Grooming help explains why the person may stay with the abuser, submit to his or her demands, or push others away who try to help. It is important to understand how this grooming process can break down survivors of domestic violence and coercive control are vulnerable, but not because they are weak, character deficient, or mentally unwell. They are vulnerable because they have been groomed. If you are concerned that you or someone you care about has been groomed for an abusive relationship, I'll go over a couple of tips that can help. First, learn about coercive control. Second, complete an inventory of the abuser's control. 3. Avoid isolation by staying connected to friends and or family. Remember that the abuser may be monitoring all of the contacts, so keep these conversations light and generally supportive unless you are certain of privacy. 4. If safe, establish boundaries and cautiously test the limits of the control. That is, in the grooming stage, the abuser may ask the victim to stay away from social events without making it seem like a demand. If the victim refuses to cede to the abuser's wishes and the abuser then becomes hostile, the abuser has made it clear that this request is really a demand. Pushing to maintain some privacy and autonomy may make evident the controlling motivations behind the romance. Even within a controlling relationship, the abused partner may be able to set some boundaries and resist isolation. And 5. Speak with a domestic violence advocate at any stage in the relationship, even if there is no physical violence. Advocates help people understand their situations and figure out safe pathways forward. And there is a book that I recommend by Lisa Aronson, PhD, called Invisible Chains. Overcoming Coercive Control in Your Intimate Relationship. That book has a lot of great information, and I'm pretty sure that it can be found on Amazon. If you know somebody that is being groomed into an abusive relationship, I suggest getting that book for them. They may not be able to take it home, of course, but you could always make time for them to come over and they could read it, you know, set up something like you need them to babysit, or you need help rearranging your living room, or anything that can get them away from the abuser long enough to read a chapter every now and then. Stay safe, everybody.